thank you for staying with us. Welcome back on the news review right here on the AM show. I'm now going to introduce to you my last guest as we get into the rest of the show. And he is in the person of Nanaya Sapong, political assistant to Alan Kwadwo Trematin. Nanaya, okay. Good morning.
You're a fine gentleman. You know.
I see where you're going. I hope you're well.
I'm doing good.
All right. We're just about to get into the papers, but since I've already given each one of my guests, as I would traditionally do, a minute to reflect on something very important to them, I'm going to give you same. I know you are likely going to talk about Alan Kay. What are you going to talk about in respect of him and the Alliance for Revolutionary Change?
Why would you think that I want to?
Oh, likely, maybe 60%.
Of course, I mean, if you're talking anything transformational, if you're talking anything economic, definitely it would have to go from the desk of Alan Kwadwo Trematin.
I see.
But what I would want to talk about today, indirectly, has to do with the striking action of
Clocksack?
Clocksack.
Right.
I think that it's affected business. Has affected every single aspect of our economy.
Ministries, agencies,
are shut down,
departments.
And I think that the government ought to listen to the people and come back to the round table with them. Is lost of trust.
When you say, and I know I should just let you flow on this, but I have to. When you say listen to the people, I mean, Alan Kwadwo Trematin was Minister for Trade. And industry at a point. These things happened. He wasn't Minister for Employment and Labor Relations.
He wasn't
I know.
Minister for Finance.
Oh, okay.
This strictly has to do with labor, employment, and finance. Alan did his utmost best. Everything that came onto his desk, he did push. And I do not think that during Alan's tenure as Minister for Trade, you heard about Guta and fleet forwarders and all of those.
Oh, there were actions.
There were actions, but not actions that did affect the state as this one is affecting the state.
Right.
Of course, and there were actions which he took swift actions to actually revert the situations. And this had to do strictly with policy implementations. And of course, we acted swiftly and they were back on track. But this one, it's like Clocksack is literally being ignored. Nobody's even talking about it, but it's affecting government business.
Well, we have definitely been talking about it. We in fact went to one of these. We went to the ministries.
And this is where Alan comes in. He's got policies and a framework in his great transformational plan that seems to be able to deal with these economic hardships. This purely boils down to economic hardship. The people are suffering. Ghanaians are suffering. Clocksack is suffering. And if the fundamentals are weak, some of these actions will expose you.
It appears this morning you came for the flag bearer of the MPP because Ghanaians are suffering and all of that. You know, it reminds you of something. Nurses are suffering, teachers are suffering, and then you end with if the fundamentals are weak.
These are sound bites that we will never forget in our political and economical history of this nation. We will never forget it.
All right.
Are you not suffering?
Oh, brother, the end in I baby. I remember when it was COVID and the president was like, oh, we are in this together, let's tighten our belts. I was wondering which belt that was because it appears...
He uses suspenders.
You have a point. You have a point. I think I've noticed a few of them using suspenders. So
it doesn't affect them.
You use a belt and you are tightening.
Tightening.
But the one who has suspenders... That's an interesting one. Paul Grave. I have to start monitoring you because I think I may have... Have I ever seen you in suspenders?
I wear suspenders.
Yes, because my mind is... I remember this day you were in a white shirt and so...
But I also wear belts.
You have a belt on today.
I have a belt on today.
It's near Ishak. Do you have a belt on?
Yes.
Now, what
I use belts.
I did have a belt. and then the Apple belt. Okay, so I'll start the papers with you, Paul Grave. What do you have?
So I have the custodian. 2024 battle lines drawn is Bawumia Napo versus Mahama Jane. Using mobile money to buy and sell across Africa, a fast track to economic integration, Gabi Asari Ochredakon. I just like to read the headlines. Zoom Lion.
Yeah, so we do the headlines first, then you can pick one or two.
Zoom Lion donates modern equipment for Homo War cleanup initiative, Ministry of Finance, UG, dialogue to strengthen Ghana's economy. GES Ghana Education Service introduces self-placement system for 12,720 new teachers. ESLA tours girls in ICT training centers. Accra faces massive congestion by 2030. That is the GSS. Clean energy transition must benefit resource-producing countries, Abuja Napo. And then I see that Ben Epstein's sister is going to be laid to rest.
Yes, that's true.
Over this weekend, Ms. Joanne Epstein.
We condole with
We
the
condole
family.
with Mr. Ben Epstein. And then Ghana's education system progress and challenges and the perils over speeding in Ghana, a call for road safety. And I see Kwabena here distributing music through streaming is better than CDs and cassettes. I mean, you recall those years when there were CDs and cassettes, and you used to wind it and wind it and wind it. And then my last story for me will be
The interesting bit though, now Etia got on.
Yeah.
And the antics of bringing it out and sometimes using a little tape to get it on.
Very much. Weaving a legacy, a story of bone-raised Kente weavers. And so I think
that's an interesting one, I think. At the end,
yes,
you should at least get it.
Maybe I can actually even start with that.
All right.
In a small town of Bonray, nestled in the heart of Ghana's Asante region, a centuries-old tradition is alive and striving. For generations, the skilled weavers of Bonray have been crafting the iconic Kente cloth, a vibrant and intricate textile that tells the story of Ghana's rich cultural heritage. With every trend and pattern, the weavers of Bonray are keeping alive a legacy that has been passed down from their ancestors. As the world around them changes, can this ancient tradition survive? Meet the Kente weavers of Bonray and discover the beauty, significance, and resilience of this beloved Ghanaian craft. And I mean, this is impressive. I know some young people in Ntonso who are also very close to Bonray as well, who do some very, very beautiful Kente weaving, and we must commend them and also have them continually do their work. I would go into clean energy transition must benefit resource-producing countries, Abuja Napo. The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abuja Napo, has called for a fair balance between the quest to tackle climate change and the continuous exploitation of mineral resources. A global campaign to tackle climate change may affect the traditional approach to mineral exploration, necessitating a significant shift in policy. And then Mr. Asare Otridakun, using mobile money to buy and sell across Africa, a fast track to economic integration. For over 6 decades, from the Mali Empire through to the OAU Summit of May 1963 and incrementally to date, African unity has remained but a collective dream, one that has been sustained more by a recognition of its existence and essence rather than a conviction of its manifestation. In 2021, with the coming of the being of the African Continental Free Trade Area, after Africa began taking clear, deliberate steps of greater conviction towards building the world's largest single market in terms of member states. The challenges are, of course, many and varied. But if there is one practical instrument that can now ensure that the desire to bring our 55 nations and 1.4 billion people together, then that should be our telecommunication handset. And that's a story by Mr. Gabi Asare Otridakun. Now, the big story, 2024 battle lines drawn. It's Bawumia Napo versus Mahama Jane. The 2024 battle lines for 2024 general election have been drawn following the overwhelming endorsement of the nomination of Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh as a running mate of the New Patriotic Party flag bearer, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. The National Council, the second highest decision-making body of the governing New Patriotic Party, yesterday endorsed Dr. Opoku Prempeh, affectionately called Napo, in line with Article 13, Clause 3.1 of the party's constitution, which states that the party's presidential candidate shall, in consultation with the National Council, nominate the vice presidential candidate. And speaking immediately after the confirmation, the General Secretary, Mr. Justin Kodia Frimpong, said, "I am happy to report that after the necessary consideration, the National Council of the party unanimously endorsed the presidential candidate's nomination of Honorable Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, Member of Parliament for Meshia South, an energy minister, as his vice presidential candidate pursuant to Article 13 Clause 1. And I think that this is a very important role that is going to churn out the success of the 2024 general election, especially for me as a member of the ruling government and a member of the New Patriotic Party. I'm confident that Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's selection of Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, the man who implemented President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo's free senior high school, is the man that would lead us together with the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the incoming president of Ghana, the one who will lead us into the success and the victory. And we have considered that this is a very great pair. His passion for education, tenure as a minister for education, energy minister, huge recognition within the grassroots. Meshia South MP from 2008 to date, won successive elections in the various constituencies, been able to put together the constituency, bring infrastructural development. I wish the New Patriotic Party the best, which is the party that I belong to. And I'm certain that in the next few days, we would adore him on Tuesday at the Jubilee Park in Ashanti region, whilst we have introduced him to the king, the Otufo-Osei-Tutu as well.
All right. I didn't expect that you would wish the worst to the party that you belong to anyway. I mean, I wish the party the best, the party that I belong to. I don't think anyone forget you'd be wishing them the worst. But Ishaq, yes. I observe a lot. I noticed when he said, incoming president, you winced. Why?
I'm not.
I know I'm being mischievous, but
I'm not sure whether your observation was correct. I think the two pair are capable of winning power. Actually, among all those names that were being speculated, right. I've always thought Napo would be a very good running mate.
Why?
With the Bawumia.
Why?
I think the energy that he would bring. Bawumia is saying, I mean, if you look at the way the party itself projected him, Bawumia had always been a very patient, careful, planning individual. Napo dynamics is a bit different.
Calculated, huh?
Yes. So sometimes that's why some people claim he's arrogant. Meanwhile, as other people have said, his assertiveness had made people to believe otherwise. And I believe the energy that he's bringing to their ticket as well as the region he's coming from. I think he will be a very good mate to that of Bawumia.
All right.
So I'm actually in agreement with him that it was a good pick.
I see.
For the ruling party.
I have differing opinions, but opinions I have shared. Not to say that he is not a...
Okay,
I mean, whenever there's a pool, right?
Yeah.
You have everybody qualified. It's like a job application that strictly says maybe you must have this, maybe you must speak X languages.
Yes.
You must do this, you must do that. You must have a bachelor's in this, you must have a master's in that. I mean, everybody who is coming has those credentials.
That's
but niakano, they say sometimes your first class will get your foot in.
Okay.
But beyond that, you better know something. So, and I'm sure as an academic, you know some of these. But I'm not going to belabor the point. I'll rather let you, the guests, talk. Nanayo.
Oh, brother.
Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh.
Napo.
If you don't like, go for your own timetable. Doom CSC.
Beautiful sound bites.
Free SHS. You know, you can look at the negatives, you can look at the positives as well. Obi and all black. But when you consider him, his pairing with Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Some have even gone as far as saying that with his temperament, and I see some attempt to, which I think is not bad. Fifi Bafo coming in, of course, a very, pretty sober, though sometimes I have made him get agitated. I succeed in doing things like that to speak for him from what we've seen. But Matthew Opoku Prempeh, for you, your analysis?
The NPP as a party, they had no other option.
Could you speak up a bit more?
The NPP as a party had no other option, in my view.
They had no other option?
They had no other option.
So this one, it was a forced pick?
It was a forced pick. Looking at the other...
But how do you mean? A forced pick how?
Looking at the other personalities that were lined up as compared to Napo.
Professor Onyina, the Vice Chancellor of KNUST, Natoshi, the Chief of Staff, Remor Pare.
The first two, they couldn't pair them with Bawumia because they both do not have any political mileage.
You mean, so I am reliably informed that there were some discussions on the Vice Chancellor at KNUST, for example, and that people even spoke to her.
She had her own strengths she was bringing on board.
Right.
all right? But pairing any of the two you had mentioned with Alhaji Bawumia, I mean, this was not going to put any weight on the ticket. In any case, Napo, in my view, this current 2024 elections that we're going, it's adding no value to the ticket of Alhaji.
Nanayo, you're saying Napo is adding no value to the ticket?
The value is the same. The two of them, practically, they are of the same value.
But how do you explain that? Napo is very different. He's been through Parliament. He served as Minister, Education, Energy. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia came in as the economic whiz-kid. I don't want to go there. And he has his own,
we are going
now
into
his vice.
2024 elections looking out for a ticket that has credibility. We are going into the 2024 elections looking at a ticket that has a transformational vision. We are going into the 2024 elections looking at a ticket that can be trusted. We are going into 2024
A ticket that can be trusted, wow.
looking at a ticket that is accountable to the people of Ghanaians. You understand? This is what Ghanaians are going to look at. Credibility, transformation as in vision, trust and accountability. And putting Napo and Alhaji Bawumia together, putting JDM and Nana together, bringing on board Alan Kujo-Tremantin. He's not picked his running mate yet. But even as a standalone, the three on the line, nothing should tell you that Napo, Bawumia, Jane Nana, JDM can ever be compared.
In other words, Alan standing alone towers over
we can
Mahama Jane and Bawumia Napo.
We can
I see.
elaborate these points. And that is why I've tabled them. I am asking you as an individual, would you trust Napo Bawumia's ticket on the issues of our economy?
My trust or otherwise will be expressed in election 2024.
And so many Ghanaians will not believe Dr. Bawumia when he comes to talk about the dollar. And I wonder if they would trust Napo when it comes to talk about energy. And when we are talking about a transformational agenda for Ghana, moving Ghana from its current state into a state where there will be an industrial transformation, you can do that without talking about energy.
All right.
Ghanaians do not trust Napo when it comes to talk about issues on our education and teachers' welfare. So let's when we are talking about the tickets, we should look beyond the person's individual political, achievements in his constituency and within his party when his party members, as you said, Doug will not come and sit here and say anything negative about his party. He would definitely praise his party. But we are talking about the over 17, 18 million electorates out there, the over 30-something million Ghanaians who are looking up to us to take a decision in come December 2024, a decision that would affect them generationally. The debts Ghana is into today is not going to be solved or dealt with in the next 4 years. If you understand me very well, this is a generational debt that we are in. I'm going to pay, you're going to pay, your children are going to pay, your children's children are going to pay.
Some analysts say north of 2050 will still be. I mean, in fact, when we are celebrating Ghana at 100 in 2057,
and you think
if we don't get our act together,
and you think
we'll
Ghanaians will be willing to put the economy back into their hands? No.
Okay.
We will not want to hear statements that would hit our ego.
Let me ask you a very quick question. I mean, we've dwelled enough on this. If you took out Alan Tremantin, between the two pairings, the two offerings, which would you trust more?
Alan Tremantin.
If you took out Alan Tremantin from the three?
I can take him out. I'll trust myself then. I can take him out.
All right. Let's get into your stack of papers, and then we'll come to Ishak.
So I have the...
You have the New Finder newspaper.
Finder. Oh, okay, I didn't see that one. The New Finder. Dr. Prempe pledges service leadership, rallies all MPP members to come on board. Police ready for December polls, Dr. Dampare. Musicians must unite to ensure fair pay for their work. This is long overdue. I mean, they have Ghana purchasing managers index dips, but business confidence strong. KT Hammond. NDC opposed to appointments to superior courts. I would want us to look at the story of the musicians. I think that is an industry that we all have to look at. There's so much money in there, so much opportunities. I think the Ghanaians as a country are not harnessing enough from there. And he says that the president of the Musicians Union of Ghana, Musica, Bisa Simmons, has called on all musicians to unite in support of efforts to secure royalties from their intellectual property. The plea comes as Ghana Music Rights Organizations, a sister organization of Musica, faces several lawsuits that are hindering its ability to effectively collect and distribute royalties. And I don't know if we can look at this first.
Or we can look at them just a bit quickly so that we can get into other papers as well and have more time to analyze. But yes, go into that.
Our creative industry needs a serious support, in my opinion. I think that...
it didn't start today. It's been something that, looking through this republic, some have done a bit more than others, but we've actually not been fair to... Even this latest bit, let me just chip in. The Grammys Africa thing and how we missed out and everything and the benchmarks to be met. Stonebwoy was complaining about that. I feel these are things where the first mover advantage in marketing is crucial. And I just don't think that... I feel for our creative industry, small as we are as a country, you look at us back then versus even a monster of a country like Nigeria versus even South Africa. Look at cinema. When Kwawansa was attaining strides, the South Africans were learning from us. Yes. Today, where are we vis-a-vis Nollywood, vis-a-vis the South Africans? So as for creative arts, sometimes I don't even want to talk about it.
We don't have to give up on them. I think it is leadership, lack of leadership and managerial skills. I think that those of the persons who have learned over the years would have to sit down with them, and then they would have to be ready to learn the management and entrepreneurial aspect of the creative industry. It's not just about making the music and making the noise, putting the movies out there and making the noise about it. It's about how you manage it from the time you bring it out, the entrepreneurial aspect of it. And I remember very well that in one of the interviews of Alan Chomantin, he made a statement. He said that every talent, every skill you would have, but how to make good use of the entrepreneurial aspect of it, that is what would make you money. It is not about how talented you are. Even in the football, in the sports fraternity, you will have very skilled and very talented ones. But it's just quite recently that you would see some of our stars.
There are very talented footballers who never got anywhere.
That's what I'm talking about. It's because they didn't get that opportunity to be managed well. They didn't get that opportunity to make good use of the entrepreneurial aspect of their talents. And I think that we need to be able to help them in that.
Right.
And then if you look at the page 8 of the New Finder, it says, police ready for December polls, Dr. Dampare. And the last one I would also want us to look at is a Closac strike enters day 2 as more offices remain closed.
We've already touched on that.
So the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akufu Dampare, has declared the Ghana Police Service's readiness to manage security in the country before, during, and after the upcoming December 7th general elections. He gave this assurance while speaking during an engagement with the eminent group formed by the Christian Council of Ghana. I think the police would have to do more than this, more than just assuring us. They should be able to put all parties together,
right,
sit us down, and we would have discussions over issues.
Okay.
They would have in-depth discussions. They would have to be able to do this. Sometimes they overlook certain things that triggers some of these actions. And they should take a cue from what happened during the limited registrations and voter transfers, all the packets of violence that happened, all the issues that triggered those violence incidences. We should be able to, they shouldn't just limit it between what we call the duopoly.
Okay.
They should look beyond that, because as it stands, we have serious contenders like Alan Tremontin who are making impacts.
Right.
Whose persons and their organizations are also making impacts in all the constituencies.
Right. Ishak, let me come to you. I've not taken reactions from you.
Okay.
Let me come to you on 2 issues.
Okay.
And because you're a lawyer, I want to run those by you. I've seen one in the paper, the first paper you have.
Yeah.
CJ bounces Martin Amidou in respect of the special prosecutor. But before that, the Supreme Court and, well, I should say the Chief Justice and her purported nominations, the 5.
Yes.
Including the judge sitting on the Atoforsen case. I mean, this is the first time as a student of the law that I'm hearing something like this happen. Usually it will probably be the president pushing through, and I stand corrected.
Okay.
Some people have railed against that, and our sources revealed that even the Ghana Bar Association was not in favor. They turned it down, yet the names were submitted to...
I mean, they turned it down and expanding the Supreme Court.
No, in terms of the Chief Justice being the one to... And yes, other matters standing through.
Yeah.
How does that resonate with you? And like I said, it's the first time I am hearing that a Chief Justice is going ahead to do this. Usually you would hear that, well, based on recommendations, this goes to the president. How do you react to that?
I think I don't really have something in principle against the Chief Justice recommending to the president to appoint people to expand the Supreme Court. The Constitution actually gives the president the power to do that. It's not actually restricted in, so to say there is a restriction, or maybe like an election year, you ought not to do this, as you compare it elsewhere in the United States. Appointment of Supreme Court judges is always controversial, so Ghana is not actually an exception. But if, for example, I've read somewhere the minority claims it's actually in breach of the Constitution. In that instance, the Supreme Court will have the opportunity.
But what is your reading when you read the Constitution vis-a-vis what is happening?
I think the president have the power to appoint those particular people to expand the Supreme Court.
Right.
Yeah.
I see. And some have also said, just to wrap on that point, those who have said, and I'll allow you to read the story so that later it makes a lot more sense for those who may not have followed the story, that it also breeds some level of favoritism. Why these 5? Why not any others? Why not this? Why not that? And it's because it's the CJ presenting the names. Do you get it? Yeah. That has created some sort of... do you find it problematic?
I don't have enough information to see whether picking the 5 is quite a problem. As you already mentioned earlier discussing, there are always bears among equals. Right. So there can be 15, 20 in the Court of Appeal. And if the Chief Judge in her wisdom is picking this particular 5, unless there is something specific somebody is alleging, but just saying choosing this 5 would breach something, I don't really say it.
Okay.
They should allege something specific. But if there are 10, somebody have a discretion to choose. If they choose 5, I don't think we can really question that discretion, unless something specific.
And I've listened to the AG talk about, yes, we need more of these judges, but yes, can they be skewed? Yes, they can. You remember Justice Bafuboni right before. But interestingly, even in that court petition, Bafuboni was one of those on the other end, which some people railed against. But let's quickly do this. Let's get into your stack of... Gentlemen, we have about 10 minutes. Yes. Let's maximize the time we have. So I'll let you read the headlines. Pick 1 or 2 major stories.
Yes.
I hope you pick the
I
CJ
think the one really
Martin
interested me, is a CJ bounces.
But give us the rest of the stories before you...
The CJ bounces...
Daily Guide, right?
The Daily Guide. The CJ bounces Martin Amidou over the special prosecutor. MPP okays Napo for running mate. Government secures $100 million for cocoa farms rehabilitation. And Ghana biggest CEOs 9 to promote climate action.
All right.
And that's a major.
All right. So you can go into the CJ bouncing.
Okay, so the CJ bouncing. So the Chief Justice, Gertrude Tukumo, has dismissed a petition by former Special Prosecutor Martin Amidu, which sought to remove his successor from office over allegations of procurement and human rights breaches. Information available indicates that the Chief Justice, after careful consideration of the petition, came to the conclusion that the factual and legal foundation of the petition fell short of the standard required to establish a prima facie case for the removal of Kisi Ajibang as a special prosecutor. Yes. Should I talk more about it? I think,
you can share your thoughts.
I think when this story first broke up, I had the opportunity to be interviewed by GTV and TV3.
Right.
And I had always have reservations about the way the petition itself was developed. Nevertheless, I didn't want to do the work of the Chief Justice.
Right.
But I believe there was.
But now that, I mean,
it's
she's established that there is not enough
Yes.
weight behind
Yes.
it. There's no prima facie case.
Yes.
It's done. What is your reaction?
Yes. So I did even speculate the fact that it will not be successful.
Okay.
And I was surprised that his Martin Amidu was actually bringing it, seeking the removal.
You know, later he came up with and the whole thing.
Yes.
Ordinarily, when such petitions go,
Yes.
you shouldn't know who
Yes.
petitioned, right?
Yes, yes.
But in this instance, somehow.
Yes.
But you were surprised that he did.
He did.
Why?
Yes.
Why?
I mean, it was, for me, it appeared inappropriate for you to be seeking the removal of your successor, especially when those excuses that he was giving was not credible enough. For example, among them was the allegations that
That he's
even
been
though he
targeting
had
certain people.
even though he had police powers, he had breached some human rights violations by seeking to arrest those people. He couldn't point to the specific human rights violation that he had breached. As a human rights lawyer and a lecturer in human rights law, there's nothing wrong with citizens being arrested.
Right.
If you can point to the fact that they have certain questions to answer.
Right.
And then the inducement of personnel from other sister organizations to the Special Prosecution Office. What is wrong with that?
Yeah.
I mean, even in there's nothing wrong with attracting
He even spoke
people.
about his relationship with some judges and is coming out at a point to say that it appears some of them are against the office and
Yes,
all
the press
of that.
conference he held.
And he is justified if he feels they are.
That's right. And if you look elsewhere, people, I mean, look at Ken Starr investigation of Bill Clinton. He was regularly giving updates.
Yeah.
Even though I wouldn't want him to give update, that would tend to influence the way the court conduct its business. And what he did not suffice at that particular level. And other things, procurement breaches and other things.
Yeah.
And I think because it's also a new office, we should give him room to make some few mistakes. And as
I mean, we have to be careful with that.
Yes.
This is the law we are dealing with.
Yes.
He himself, a lawyer, someone
Yes.
who has taught me before
Yes.
criminal
Yes.
law. But when it comes to these matters, the room for such mistakes are pretty small.
Well, law
but
enforcement,
as a
yes.
human institution,
Yes,
there will be some of them.
there will be some of them. And I think most of the things that he was alleging, as a Chief Justice, have now agreed. There's no prima facie case. But if you look at them, they are frivolous excuses.
Frivolous.
Yes, I think so. Yes.
And you wouldn't have expected that of Martin Amidu.
No.
All right.
Yes.
Do you want to get into another paper, or is there something else?
I think there was, I think there is a major thing coming, but not that of Ghana. The British election
Oh, yeah.
is very, very important.
Interesting surprises.
Yes.
Liz Truss has been booted out.
Yes, from his seat. Well, I understood he's a shortest
Former Prime Minister.
Prime Minister, 49 days.
Yes.
Yes. So, and his performance, you can remember when he became Prime Minister, within 3 days, unfortunately, our fellow Ghanaian was actually his finance officer, the Chancellor.
Yeah.
Quickly melt down within 2 weeks. So I expected that to happen. Yes.
Anyway, so if you've been following, the last time I checked,
This last statement. Fellow Ghanaian.
I may have missed it.
No,
fellow Ghanaian.
You say it
The
wasn't
Chancellor
surprising.
was Ghanaian.
And
I
you said
think
it
it was
wasn't-
unfortunate
that was
that
a good
Ghanaian was in that
I just love the
No, wait,
fellow
wait.
Ghanaian.
No, not necessarily. Don't misunderstand me. I mean, I know the guy
Right.
as a Ghanaian,
Right.
being a chancellor within 2-3 weeks, the British economy melted down because he was appointed.
Do you feel if it were someone of a different extraction, the case would have been different?
No, that's not what the point I'm trying to make. I wish it wasn't a Ghanaian in that situation. But then it was from a Ghanaian background.
Well, it comes with. We were happy when a Ghanaian was there. When he was booted out.
Actually not talking about. I love the phrase "fellow Ghanaian."
Oh,
What better way could I have?
you know, trying to be sarcastic.
I mean, a colleague Ghanaian would sound good.
Fellow Ghanaian.
I didn't feel like
No, you don't get what I'm saying.
I understood him.
You understand?
I think the president announcement in COVID-19 is one.
Yeah.
And so at least maybe he has a case. Maybe they had COVID affecting their finances as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, one of the reasons why the Conservatives in Britain have booted out, I understood Keir Starmer has gained enough seats to become the Prime Minister. COVID was surely a contributor factor.
So as of the last time I checked, and it's been quite a while, but the Labour Party had 326 out of the 650 seats.
That's right.
Yes. Already they would have needed 325 to get half of it. They had at the time 326. Rishi Sunak, the British PM, had conceded. He delivered he said the people had delivered a sobering verdict. I like how sometimes these people, sobering verdict, one that will give you reflection. I can think of other places where, Charlie, it's not like that. Other places very close to me. And considered that the Labour Party had won. Notable wins, Nigel Farage, you know him.
Yes.
The leader of the hard right Reform UK party. He won a seat after 7 failed attempts. 7. Chai, this guy has a lot. And then Jeremy Corbyn, we've seen him on the other side, who led the Labour Party into the general elections of 2017 and 2019, has held on to his seat in North London. So these are some of the
as independent, or he
developments.
actually went on behalf of Labour?
I think he's held on to his seat in North London. I think he's still with Labour. Is he not?
Apparently, he was suspended. Because of
I don't know of that.
allegations.
I don't know of that because, but of course we could check.
Yes.
But definitely in 2017 and 2019, he was on the ticket.
Yes, he was. In fact, he was Labour leader at some point.
Yes, he was.
Yes.
There is a wind of surprises that is blowing all over.
Yeah.
So Ghana is not an exception when that wind of surprise is blowing.
Paul Grave, you know, we usually do something with the US elections when they happen. Let me move from the UK to the US. And it happens in November, ours is in December. Then people will start permutations. Oh, the Republicans have won, so or the Democrats have won. Or maybe the elephant symbol has won, so Are we going to do those permutations this year?
Well, you see, for me, I don't want to subscribe to those permutations. I want to subscribe to the new leadership that Ghana is going to receive, especially from Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia as the running mate, as the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party and running mate of Dr. Matthew Poku-Prempeh. I want to see that the Ghanaians will surprise the Ghanaian people by retaining the New Patriotic Party.
Okay, that's fine. Because of time, we have to do this snip. Would you like to get into your next paper? My question for you, though, you don't have to answer this. I don't want you to answer it.
Yeah.
Dr. Bawumia, we've known him. What's new? Matthew Poku-Prempeh, we've known him. What's actually new again? But anyway, it's a rhetorical question. It's not meant to be answered. Quick
What
thoughts.
if I want to?
Quick thoughts. Because of time, unfortunately, we don't. What is this? The Searchlight?
The Searchlight, yes.
The Daily Searchlight.
Yes.
So let's do this in about 1 minute so I can quickly do this and we're out.
Okay.
But then the judiciary.
No, we don't have time. Please,
Okay.
please. Let's
Which
go
one?
to.
Okay. It's the NDC descent on Akufo-Addo CJ, accuses them of alleged plot to pack Supreme Court. I think we've already spoken about that.
We already have.
And
I mean, if there are stories we are regurgitating, we don't have to get into them.
Okay.
It's a read.
I think it's more focused on international. Biden said he screwed up debate but vows to stay in election. A move that all local government authorities should copy. Hamas faces growing public dissent as Gaza war erodes support.
Okay. So I think that paper captures things that we've already done. I'll just quickly get into the daily graphic. I'll not do stories we've already done, because we've done it, we've spoken about it a lot.
Yeah.
Amend Bank of Ghana Act, IEA says so. Corruption, filthy, despicable act of treachery, Ochenhene asserts. I'll not do much reading. I think we know about some of these matters. Corruption has washe kaba.
I was
And
at the lecture.
when you abembeng and on if you like come, they say as the former AG Auditor General will say, if you fight corruption, corruption will fight back. MPP NDC in close contest for Wenchi seat. That story on pages 16 and 17. And GES introduces self-posting module for colleges of education. I'm not going to read because of the passage of time, but just to add, ECG recovers 11.44 million Ghana cedis from defaulting customers, and Austria presents trained dogs to Ghana armed forces. It's to also work on the bond of friendship that has, the enduring friendship, in fact, that has existed between the two countries. The Bank of Ghana Act, maybe let me just, because this is a bit technical, I know what, so the Director of Research Institute, the Institute of Economic Affairs, Dr. John Kwachi, has proposed an amendment to the terms and conditions of the service of board directors of the Bank of Ghana so that their allowances will be determined by Parliament to insulate the bank from executive control. It goes on and on. Final reflections, 30 seconds each out of here. Paul Grave, I'll start with you.
Well, I think that my final reflections are that it's an election year. Everyone should be discreet with their debates and conversations. The Ghanaian people will make the best of decisions as it relates to their future.
Right.
Minimal insults, jabs can be allowed discreetly, but I think that the integrity of each of the candidates that have been presented is very important.
All right.
So, issues that are not of public interest should not be in the public domain for consumption.
All right. For you, Nanayao.
Yes.
Please, very briefly, 30 seconds.
Yes,
no
yes,
more.
yes. I just want to touch on the Supreme Court judges' issue. And I think that Movement for Change, Alan, in his great transformational plan, is saying that he would introduce a legislation to cap the number of Supreme Court judges. Indeed, the Article 128, Clause 1 of the 1992 Constitution puts a minimum of 9 judges, apart from the Chief Justice, but then it does not also put a limit on the appointment of justices to the Supreme Court. You understand? So I believe that we should come to a point whereby there should be a cap on the number of appointments that are made.
All right. You agree with Professor Enning, among others, that we should have a cap on some of these. I think it was rather age of the president. I'm correcting myself. Ishak, you have the final word.
Yes, just to touch on the Supreme Court issue, I don't really agree with placing a limit on the Supreme Court. Because the nature of Ghana's Supreme Court is that so many cases tend to get there. If you look at Britain or elsewhere, you don't actually have automatic right to get to the Supreme Court.
Right.
Or when it was House of the Laws. And the workload, I've actually taken my students to the Supreme Court last year, almost 100 of them, to listen to the justice of the Supreme Court and to address them. Their workload is quite huge. And if you have a slim Supreme Court, that would not augur well for us, because a lot of citizens in Ghana have the right to appeal up to the Supreme Court, unlike elsewhere, where they can have slim Supreme Court, because many people are not allowed to get there. My final word is whether the election in Britain could have implications to Ghana, as you were trying to say. Maybe people usually analyze the United States election.
Migration and all.
Because I know people will be doing those analyses.
Right.
From my perspectives and having lived in Britain, I don't think it really have implications.
Okay.
Because the consultants have made a lot of terrible mistakes.
Okay.
Pulling Britain out of the European Union, refusing to shut down the borders when COVID-19 was hitting Britain.
Okay.
And elderly people were dying in their numbers.
Well,
So-
I know both Conservative and Labour had their thinking divergent on Brexit, for example.
that's right.
But gentlemen, thank you so much for joining the conversation. Dr. Paul Grave Boakye Dankwa, government spokesperson on security and governance, thank you for joining. We also had Nanaya Sapong, political assistant to Alan Kwejo Chemating, and then Ishak Ibrahim, senior lecturer at School of Law, University of Professional Studies, Accra. Thank you so much for joining us for breakfast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, as we veer into sports for prime take with Muftau Nabila Abdullah, Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, ending with us. They're offering prostate screening for free if you're a man, fertility screening for free if you're a woman. Just make your way to any of their branches here in Accra at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Kronomabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex, the Stakwade Anaji State, Tema Community 22, Tichiman Hanswa, and the Siama Enzima. You can reach them on 0244 867-068 or 0274-234-321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Time now for Prime Take with Muftau Nabila Abdullahi. Stay for that.